South Shore LGBTQ Oral History Archive is an equity, allyship, and anti-oppression initiative from the Duxbury Free Library. We went on the local scene to learn more.
Throughout history, queer people have lived a quiet existence with stories that have remained untold. But over the last few decades, we have seen the queer voice being set free. In September of 2022, the Duxbury Free Library received a grant from Mass Humanities to begin the South Shore LGBTQ Oral History Archive, an intergenerational project where teens had the opportunity to interview LGBTQ seniors about their lives, their struggles, and their truths. We spoke with local high school students Lauren and Toby, who interviewed seniors on their lived experiences. Here's what they had to say.
Sam, the community engagement coordinator, came by my high school's GSA meeting, Gay Straight Alliance, and gave us a quick presentation about what the program would be like. And a friend and I thought it'd be a fun way to meet some older queer people because our GSA was already pretty small, but we just thought it would be a fun way to meet someone with a bit more life experience.
I'm in my school's GSA, or Gay Straight Alliance, and Sam, the person who runs the program, actually came to talk to my school, and I wanted to participate because I thought it sounded really cool.
I don't have a lot of older queer people in my life, people that aren't my peers, so I thought it'd be an interesting way to learn more about just like what like regular people did during that time where there was not a lot of recognition for queer people in like government or just like regular society. Yeah, like my parents are immigrants. Like I don't have any like long-standing family here. I don't have any like deep roots in this nation. I just thought it'd be an interesting way to know how just like people felt about this like societal recognition of queer people changing, because it has changed relatively rapidly over the past however many years.
I wanted to learn to sign on this project just because of the history, I guess. I mean, before going into this project and spending my time with the person I interviewed, I knew almost nothing about the queer history of the United States. I pretty much was lost. I didn't know anything about it. I don't learn anything about it in school. I've had very brief mentions of it, and I thought this would be a good way to broaden my learning experience. But I remember I was talking to Dane, the person I interviewed, and he told me that during Ronald Reagan's presidency, he did not say one word about the AIDS epidemic, and because he never talked about it during the time, it was being forgotten about. Well, thousands of people were dying, and that's just a mass population that was being destroyed, and that's not okay to ever happen. And I think we need projects like this so we can remember that and so it never happens again, because regardless of someone's race or ethnicity or how they identify, they should never be subject to what they were being blamed that the AIDS epidemic was their fault when it was not their fault, and they did not have large support from the masses. And I think that in the future we need to support people regardless of how they identify.
Reagan was president for two terms. You heard him, I'm sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In his 2 terms as president, he never once said the word AIDS or HIV. He gave almost zero money to research to find cures for it. Most people basically said, screw you, we're going to do this on
Yeah.
You know, if you're not going to help us, we're going to make this work on our own.
Yeah.
And the gay community was not looking towards the government because they had already had several years of being ignored and blamed.
And abandoned, essentially.
Yeah. Well, your people are messed up anyways. You're screwed up. So God is, this crazy thinking.
Yeah.
So we knew right away we weren't going to be supportive.
Yeah.
So I think the gay community, both lesbian and gay people, pulled together and said, we will bring food to people. We will take people to the hospital.
Wow.
In the early years, even firemen wouldn't go into somebody's house. Nurses wouldn't treat them. In the first maybe 2 or 3 years, they didn't know how it was transmitted. So people were terrified they'd get it, but their humanity didn't override their fear.
I think it's something that we as younger people think it was so far away when it was relatively recently, and a really tragic example of how fragile support can be. And within just having those communities and knowing just people who are willing to help you is a very touching thing.
The person I interviewed grew up in the 1950s and 1960s, and he didn't even know what the word gay meant until he was 18. And meanwhile, now I've grew up with books that had gay characters in them, so I was exposed to the LGBTQ community since almost birth, and I thank my parents for that and being open and accepting. But I think that people just didn't know how, like, what it was, and so when people came out, not only was it something that the Bible and Christians and many churches were saying were wrong, but it was also just something that was a completely foreign concept. So I think it was much harder to come out just because people didn't understand it and people were not as supportive. I think I learned just that I should be more grateful, because in my school we have a GSA program. Meanwhile, the person I interviewed, he was terribly bullied, and he didn't come out to his parents until he was in his 20s because he was so afraid of how he'd be treated. Meanwhile, I have supportive family and friends, and there are people all around me who love me for who I am and all of my friends for who I am. And I guess I took that for granted before I did this project, I think. Because I just had I knew that people weren't as supportive, especially, and I know that in different parts of the country it's different. But I also live in Massachusetts, which is an amazing place to grow up. And the person I interviewed did not. He grew up in Ohio, and his family was very religious. And I think it just made me realize that I'm so lucky to live where I do and have the people in my life that I do. And it also hurts me in a way that not everyone has that, and I want everyone to be able to have that.
Did kids bully you? Or
I was bullied all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, knocked into my locker and called faggot. And,
yeah. That must have been really, really hard.
It was. It was very hard.
And did that give you a lot of motivation to get out?
Yeah. I already knew I wanted to get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know that I could do anything. I didn't have much self-confidence. But you know, I want to tell young people, it's like, that doesn't matter if you just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Because eventually you find your pack with people.
Yeah.
You find people who believe in you, who help you see all your strengths and gifts and celebrate who you are, not for what they think you should be. You know?
Exactly, yeah.
I think it's definitely not as dangerous physically, especially here. I think we see this area of the country is like a safe haven for queer people, but it hasn't always been, and it wasn't until relatively recently, like within like a regular lifetime.
I want people to hear about these stories, so again, that we don't forget, but also so that we keep fighting, because these people, queer elders, they have fought so long and so hard for us with everything that they've done protests and rallies, and they have been so insanely brave to come out and be who they are because of so many people who do not support them. And I think their stories need to be heard so we don't go backwards and we keep moving forwards with acceptance.
I hope it provides people with some kind of energy to help fix, or not fix, but help their own communities, where if you see the legislation going on in the country that is not that is actively harming trans and queer people around like the South and the West, if you see how much just being an open person can help, just having a kind heart and having the will to help others, how much that can be of use in that kind of situation, where you don't have to have, governmental power, you don't have to have a lot of money, you just have to have, hope and love for others.
Learn more about this initiative at the Duxbury Free Library website.
Hey friend, thanks for stopping by. If you like this video by the local scene, share the love and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe.